The British pub is an icon around the world, but they're very different from a typical bar in the United States. Let's talk about that. Here are 5 big differences between bars in the UK and the US. If you're finding this channel for the first time, this is Bartender HQ, where we talk everything to do with bars, drinks and bar culture. If you enjoy this video, then please hit that subscribe button, but don't smash it like others tell you to, like a drunken fool, or we will have to ask you to leave. Number 1, our bartenders typically don't make much money. While the bartenders in America are able to make pretty big tips on any given week based on the amount of shifts that they work, in the UK, bar tipping culture is very, very different. Bar staff will typically make around £5 to £10 per shift in tips. There are obviously exceptions, but that is pretty standard. That being said, the wages for a bartender in the UK are generally better, starting at around £8 or $12 in the US per hour, and going up from there with experience. If you're looking to make more cash in the hospitality industry in the UK, you will probably make far more money as a server, waiter, waitress on the floor. Number 2, if a cocktail isn't on the menu explicitly, you probably can't get it in the UK. When we visited the US, one thing I was really surprised to see was that there were really short cocktail menus in most of the bars that we visited. Now this turns out it's not because the bars have a small number of cocktails that they serve, but simply that bartenders are expected in the US in the majority of bars to know all the classics. Whereas in the UK, certainly in many of the chain restaurants, if the drink isn't listed on the menu, the bartenders will probably not be able to make it for you. Now that could be a case of knowledge, or it could actually be a case that the restaurant has no way of actually charging for it. While drinks like Negronis are starting to now show up in pub menus, in certain chains, if it's not on the menu and you're not in a higher end bar that looks like they know how to make cocktails, it's probably best to stick to the menu. Number 3, food may be served at really weird hours. If you are in an independent pub, you may well find the kitchen is closed between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, for example, so that the chef can have a break. But this kind of harks back to up until the late 80s, where you couldn't even get a beer in the afternoon in the UK. It was only in the late 80s that the Defence of the Realm Act was actually repealed, which prohibited bars from serving alcohol between 2:40 PM and 6:30 in the evenings. This was essentially from the World War I days, when they didn't want to have drunken people turning up to shifts in munitions factories and blowing up the factory. Number 4, our pubs look way cooler than yours. One of the big benefits of having what we like to call history in the UK is that many of our pubs look like a set from Harry Potter. Now that is because many of them are actually older than the United States. While you won't be able to indulge in a butterbeer in almost any of them, you will be able to rejoice in stained glass windows, low ceilings, beams, original features, and doors that are so short that they will concuss you as quickly as a college football match. Number 5, we love gin more than anything else right now. While the image of the traditional pub is often of warm beers, real ales being served by hand pumps. Now they're not actually warm, they're served at cellar temperature, but they're not going through a chiller, so yeah, okay, they're not as cold as a lager. You are more likely to find people with gin and tonics in hand these days. It's the easiest round in the world in the UK. You can actually literally just order a round of gin and tonics for everyone in your party. Very, very few people will be upset by this. Craft spirits in the UK have really been led by gin, not in the way that the US has with bourbon, but a huge amount of distilleries wanted to create their own whiskies and craft spirits with the craft cocktail revolution that happened very recently. And obviously the easiest thing to do to finance something like this is to actually create a gin or a vodka or something that you can sell straight away while your whiskey is aging. Oh, and while we're at it, don't even think about using tonic water from a gun. I know this happens everywhere in America, but we want it in a little tiny bottle and we will pay the earth for it. Of course, we also have some of the world's best cocktail bars in the UK, and while some of these things are a little bit of a generalisation, they are things that you will notice in a lot of British pubs. These bars will make you whatever cocktail you would like. Along with our thriving British independent bar scene, we have got some of the world's best bartenders, the world's best bars, so come and visit. If you'd like to hear more about these bars or tell me what I've missed in this video, then leave us a mention in the comments. And if you want to find out more articles like this, head over to bartenderhq.com. I've been David Eden-Sangwell.